And welcome to another episode of Stuck in My Mind podcast. I am your host, Wize, and my guest today is a connector, influencer, and passionate advocate for helping women thrive in every area of life. She is the founder of and CEO of Women, Worth, and Wellness, an organization she launched in 1994 to help women focus not only on financial success, but also on personal wellness, confidence, philanthropy, and legacy. Inspired by her mother, a trailblazing business owner who believed women should have financial independence and ownership of their future, she has spent decades helping women understand that health and wealth are inseparable. Through her work, she empowers leaders to become both daring and caring, creating meaningful impact in their communities and beyond. Please welcome to the show, Nancy Griffin.
Thank you. Delighted to be here.
Thank you for being a guest. I appreciate you. So let's just tell us about your mother and how she influenced your life and career.
Well, she would get a real big kick out of me saying what I'm about to say because I was always a problem for her. I was the youngest of four, and I was kind of a mistake because she was in her 40s when I was born. And at that point in her life, because the next sibling up is 6 years older, she was kind of ready to move on to the next chapter in her life, was to start her own business. And there was I. There's this kid that she's got to look after. And of course, I always was making noise or getting into trouble or whatever. And she was always hoping that somebody would take me, like, go, somebody take her for a car ride or something. But anyway, she really, so the bottom line is she started her business. And of course, I was at the point where I was growing up. And there's a book written by a woman in Chicago called Primetime Women. And what I realized was I was raised by a primetime woman. Basically, I was at her apron strings while she was trying to build this business. And it was a homemade jam business. So, of course, it was in the home and lots of activities going on. So I learned a lot. I learned a lot through that experience without really realizing what I was learning.
So what lessons did you learn growing up about money, leadership, and independence?
Well, she always said women need to have their own money. Women, and her big point was women need to have their own bank account. In her day, it was a big deal for women to have their own bank account. And probably for them to even be able to open that bank account, they'd have to have their husband or father or some man sign off for them. So from an early age, I got the message, you need to have your own independence as it pertains to money.
Awesome. So what inspired you to create Women, Worth, and Wellness in 1994?
Okay, well, I started into the wealth advisory business in 1992,
Okay.
and I had all my licenses, had a great company to work with that had a fabulous training program. But they said the one thing you don't have, Nancy, is any clients. You've got to go find your own clients. And the reason for that is you are going to be an advisor to them with their wealth, and that's a very, very personal relationship. And so you really, really want to work with people who you care about, who you feel familiar with, and so who are you going to work with? And I thought, you know what? And this is where what I learned from my mother came into play. I thought, I'm going to focus on women, not exclusively, but during the 90s was when women were starting to earn salaries where they really wanted to learn about how they put that together in a whole wealth plan. So there was one investment company that I was working with, and they too realized the opportunity of women in wealth during the early 90s, and they had a marketing program called Investing in Yourself. So all I had to do was organize an event and invite a bunch of women to attend, which I did. And I always found that for women, the first Saturday in November is often a really good time because women have all those school activities at Halloween sort of behind them, and it's before the whole holiday season really kicks in. So I organized and invited and marketed, and over 150 women showed up because it just indicated that a lot of women at that point in time were super keen to learn more about the whole wealth management scenario. As you may recall, it's also a time when women decided they need to learn how to play golf because they thought playing golf was the key to their advancement. So anyway, I hosted at a terrific golf club, but they came and Then, of course, I started to meet with them one at a time.
So what challenges did women face then that still exist today?
Well, that's exactly how I ended up adding on the health component. Because I started to work with these women, it was very difficult for them to get to the wealth aspect because they've got so many responsibilities. They're running a home, they're basically in charge of the wellness of their whole family, often their parents and their in laws, and of course their staff at work. And it's all boiling down to health related issues. So that's when I thought I'm going to start partnering with not for profit organizations that focus on women's health. And in Toronto, which is where I was at the time, we have a fabulous hospital called Women's College Hospital, over 100 years old. They were offering all sorts of seminars and different events, so I started to invite my clients and their friends to come to it so that they could gather more information. What the leading cause of death for women is heart disease. We now know that the symptoms for heart disease for women are quite different than they are for men, because a lot of the research over the years has treated women as little men, when of course there are these differences. So these women were really increasing their understanding and their learnings. The other benefit is that they now have contacts to reach out to. Because if you have a health related question, you logically think about going to your doctor. Well, first of all, are you lucky enough to have a doctor? Second of all, that doctor is not going to take your call and just say, oh, yes, this is what it is, and blah, blah, blah. So women realized, as did I, that you really need to educate yourselves on health related aspects. I said, every woman that I was working with was like a nurse practitioner in their home. So I'm running a training program to help them be better at being nurse practitioners. But then as I started to work with these women, I realized that when we have an event, I'll charge a nominal amount like $25 or $50. That then becomes a charitable donation, which means you have a deduction from your income tax return. So it was just a small point that was being made that by donating, you're really getting something back. The other thing that you're getting back is when you share, when you give, more often than not, the person who is extending themselves is the person that gets the greatest benefit, not necessarily the recipient of your gift or your attitude in sharing. We now know that 32 years later, women are inheriting all kinds of wealth that they now are stewarding, both in terms of from a spouse, but before we talk about the spouse, it's from their parents. So now they're earning more, and now they're starting to inherit more. So all of a sudden, this wealth scenario is way more than any of these women ever expected. Otherwise, they would have started to enhance their learnings earlier on.
What were some of the biggest obstacles you had to overcome as an entrepreneur?
Um, well, building your business is always a big challenge because you have to proceed with determination, but you have to proceed with caution. And going back to my earlier point, you really want to work with people whose lives you feel you can add value to. And as an entrepreneur, you're dealing with all sorts of different aspects of running a business. We had, it's still available, and available in the US and available in the UK, is a program called the Strategic Coach Program. And you had to be second stage entrepreneur. This wasn't a startup situation. But you would meet quarterly, and you would meet with other entrepreneurs who were building their practices. And the man who started it, Dan Sullivan, about the first two one-day sessions were all about who are you and what is your unique ability. Obviously, you're in whatever business, and the entrepreneurs that came had a variety of businesses that they were in. But what he really wanted you to know is who are you truly? And once you know who you are truly, and you're advancing that to the best of your ability, then he said, put a trademark on it, and away you go. So that, in effect, is where the Women Worth and Wellness brand came from. I started in the business in 92, and it was trademarked in 1994. And it really was bringing together the whole aspect of women and their wealth, but equally important, their health. And again, going back to my mother, she often said, "Dear, if you don't have your health, you don't have anything." I remember her words so well.
The story of 7,000 jars of jam is a powerful part of the journey. Can you share that story and its significance?
Well, as I mentioned, primetime woman wanting to start her own business. And I grew up on a farm, so we're living at a farm. We had a pick your own strawberry and raspberry and vegetables operation. My mother had always been a terrific homemaker. She made, she upholstered furniture. I couldn't even begin to think about upholstering even a chair seat. I mean, amazing what these women were capable of doing. And so if you're going to start a business, what are you going to start? So she decided she would start making, and there was this one relish that she made that everybody loved. So started with that, and then branched off into homemade jam. And so there were customers that were coming and going, so that was where some of her sales were. But then she would approach different high-end gift shops, and of course they would then feature her product. So had them in all the leading spots within the area, some spots in Toronto and Pioneer Village in Toronto as well. A lot of different gift shop locations. One was called Cullen Barnes. That's where a lot of tourists came, busloads of people. And fast forward, she died very suddenly from a heart attack. And now we've got all this jam. What are we going to do with this jam? Meanwhile, that spring, she died in October, that she would approach her different gift shops in the spring, because of course all the product came in, and then she would manufacture it over the summer and into the fall and be ready for their holiday orders. Anyway, she died suddenly. We've got all this jam. And so it's like, what in the world are we going to do? So, and of course, it's a perishable product. It was 100% pure. She had no additives. So really, we had to move it along quickly. So the one organization that was her number one account, we approached them first. And of course, you hate to phone up somebody and say, oh, by the way, she just died. You hate to say that to somebody because you know they're going to be shocked. Anyway, what had happened was this organization had put a new person in charge of the whole jam section, and they had not placed the order with her, which should have been placed in the spring. And so, of course, they were so apologetic. Well, thank goodness we had inventory. She really hadn't gone into production. So we were dealing with product that she already had. Anyway, they were so sorry to hear this because they had decided with this jam area that the top 3 sellers would be kept and the rest of them would be gone. Well, of course, hers was one of the top 3. So I said to my dad when this happened, I said, when you die, make sure you tell her that we got the order. Because she was waiting and waiting and waiting. And her final comment was, I've always found that when things go terribly wrong, you really do have to go straight to the top. You hate to do that. You hate to climb over people who've got responsibilities. But that is exactly what she did when she didn't get her order. And in those days, there was no internet, and she didn't want to do a phone call, so she'd put a note in the mail. Well, of course, Mr. Cullen gets the note in the mail and then calls back only to find out that she's passed on. So really, really, really interesting. It kind of correlates with a lot of different things, because sometimes when things don't come back to you the way you expect them to, like her waiting to get the order, you hesitate to be too aggressive in following up. But with all due respect, it wasn't her fault. They were messing up as an organization, and she was held up because of their mess up. So sometimes you really have to proceed in a very determined way to get an answer to what in the world's going on.
So you often talk about health and wealth being inseparable. Why?
Well, we take our health for granted. We get up, our bodies are the things that move us around, but we take it for granted until something stops us in our tracks. So what I advocate is that you pay attention to your health, especially when you're healthy. Especially when you're healthy. If I'm healthy now, what do I need to do in order to stay healthy? The other thing is with any good wealth plan, you need to anticipate health-related challenges so that if something happens, you don't have to immediately draw down your retirement account to cover some health-related situation. So the two definitely are inseparable.
Why do so many women prioritize everyone else's needs before their own?
That's the way they're built to begin with. And so, of course, I tell them my big number one piece of advice is to be selfish. But no woman ever wants to be referred to as being selfish. That's the worst thing you can say about a woman. But on the other hand, be selfish, because women have so much to give and so much to give to so many people. But the first thing you have to do is look after yourself. Make sure you are the best that you can be, because guess what? Once you are, you're able to give that much more to that many more people. So being selfish has a lot of dividends for a lot of other people.
What's the relationship between self-worth and net worth?
Well, net worth is all about money. It's how you work your assets and liabilities so that you're in a positive mode from a net worth standpoint. Nobody wants to have a minus net worth. Everybody wants to be in a plus net worth. And of course, self-worth is all about the same. How do you feel about yourself? Are you looking after yourself? Are you ensuring that you are the very best that you can be? And if not, what do you need to work on? I really advocate that people take 5 minutes in the morning over that first cup of coffee when you're there by yourself and have a little talk with yourself to just do an inventory. How am I doing? How am I doing? What are the things I need to focus on? How can I improve the lives of some others? Because as I mentioned earlier, often when you're in a giving mode and a sharing mode, the true beneficiary is you. So it's just a whole conversation on a lot of different aspects of living your life well that I'm suggesting you have a conversation with you about.
So how can women begin building confidence around financial decisions?
Well, first of all, know that you are worthy. Absolutely know that you are the number one person in this whole world. You are. And if you don't have that attitude, then don't expect other people to. And that means that you own your life. You own your life as its unique treasure, and then you source people who can help you. And again, I often say dentists don't do their own dental work. So don't try to look after your health all by yourself. And don't try to look after your wealth all by yourself. Find trusted advisors with whom you can work, who are professionals and who care about you. And it takes time to find that right person. Sometimes you do find that right person and you establish a really positive relationship. And then you find out one day that probably because of that relationship and their help, you have advanced beyond that person's advice. And so then you need to move on. You have outgrown your current advisor, and that's a really, really sensitive dance that you've got to work your way through, because that first trusted advisor has probably now become a good friend. But often you've outgrown that person's advice. Often you've outgrown that person's capacity to advise you. You may need to get a higher level of sophisticated support.
So what mistakes do women commonly make when it comes to wealth building?
They don't make it a priority. They say, I don't understand this stuff. I don't care. Like, whatever. It'll all be fine. Well, guess what? You're a smart person. Women are very smart. So use some of your intelligence to learn and work with somebody who can help you understand. Lots of wealth advisors offer different events. Attend those events and attend them with friends, because if you have a question, other people will learn from that question. Same way by going with a group of people, they'll be asking questions. They'll have different understandings. So just have lots of dialogue and just make it a priority to learn. I have this speaker series that I'm offering currently, and I had an AI guru speaking a week ago, and I asked her to share her 3 pearls of wisdom. This is how do we deal with AI? And I think we would apply this to wealth management as well. Her 3 They were all the same. Listen and learn. Listen and learn. But you've got to step up to it. You've got to own it. You've got to make it a priority. And you've got to find resources who can help you.
How does philanthropy fit into a fulfilled life?
Well, as I mentioned, I started with charitable giving, so that was kind of a first introduction to sharing and giving. But philanthropy is a fabulous topic. It just has so many different aspects to it. And you can decide to support whoever you care about. But again, giving back and leaning into creating a better society in whatever area you choose to do really is an enhancement to your self-worth, but also to your net worth. And assuming you're a parent, you then become a role model to your children. I don't think any parent teaches their children to be selfish every day of their lives. I mean, they want them to look after themselves and make themselves a priority, but at the same time, they don't want them to be fighting over things that they want to keep to themselves. They would like them to learn to share.
What does being a daring and caring leader mean?
Just doing all the things that I just said, like stepping up to it, like really know that you're worthy. Don't shrink away and think, well, I don't understand and I can't. Sometimes women won't ask a question because they feel when I ask the question, it indicates how much they don't know. Who cares? If you don't know, you're asking the question. So proceed, get yourself in the middle of it. And the caring component is very simply you're caring about yourself. But when you learn, especially with philanthropy and net worth and giving back, then you're a caring person.
How can leaders create influence without losing authenticity?
Say that again.
How can leaders create influence without losing authenticity?
Well, I think what you're doing with your influencing is by bringing your unique authenticity forward.
Okay.
By bringing your uniqueness forward, that's how you end up being an influencer.
What advice would you give young women entering business today?
Very simply, your life is a treasure. Your life is a treasure. And way back when my daughter was in grade 8, there was a psychologist who came in to speak to these. She was in a girls' school at the time. And with young people, it's like, well, what do you want to be when you grow up? Now it is, what do you want to be first? So a young person, what do you want to be first? Maybe you want to take a year off. Maybe you want to do some volunteer work in a faraway place to find out what that's all about. But just own your life and own the treasure that it truly is. And just know that it is you are worthy of pursuing what you want to pursue.
How can how can women create lasting impact beyond their careers?
Philanthropy, giving back, getting involved with anything in the community. And it can be your local community or it can be a broader community. I'm a Rotarian. Being a Rotary member is fabulous because you do give back in your own community, but then you're connected with situations and challenges all over the world. And you're with like-minded people. So that in itself is worth a lot. If you get into an organization where there are other like-minded people, it again pays dividends for you.
What trends are you seeing among today's women leaders?
A lot more women are starting to really pay attention to a lot of the things that I'm saying. They're starting to realize that they do have power, and they're starting to step up to opportunities. They're also paying attention to smart choices. For example, if you're a young woman and you want to be an engineer, maybe in the past you wanted to be a chemical engineer. Well, you know what? Maybe today you want to be a robotics engineer. So pay attention to smart choices, especially pertaining to education, because it always leads to something more. So really anticipate what the future is holding and go there. Actually, a quote that I saw earlier today that I reposted was the only thing that is sustainable now is the speed at which we choose to act. You know, the world is moving so far, so fast, and so quickly. How the heck do you keep up? Well, guess what? If you don't keep up, you're going to be left behind. So, really get in the middle of it one way or another. And that's why organizations are, and peer advisory groups are great ones to be part of. Obviously, choose them carefully. Choose them carefully because I've always said it's easier to get into things than it is to get out of them. So, but connecting with other people always is an enhancement, assuming you're with the right people.
But if you could change one thing about how women view themselves, what would it be?
That they can add value to other people's lives. You know, rather than just be a servant to others, be a champion of others. Women often spend a lot of time looking after others, doing their laundry, buying the groceries, cooking the meals, all those kinds of things. Sometimes one of the best things you can do is to train a few of those people in your midst how they can assume some of those responsibilities and then be a champion for them. Delegate, let them do it. They're never going to do it the way you do it. But guess what? Let them do it their own way and then be a champion for them having assumed the responsibility and completing the task.
What's next for women, worth, and wellness?
Well, I'm working on this Pearls of Wisdom speaker series, and that's turning out to be a bigger opportunity than I anticipated. I'm halfway through the year, so I am going to advance that to a significant extent. I also was on these podcasts globally, and the Women Worth and Wellness brand is stronger than ever. So underlying everything that I do is leadership for women. The best thing that can happen to me with all of my energies and efforts is that more women really step up and step out and be daring and caring. I really want them to do the dare, but also in a caring way.
If a woman listening today is struggling to see her own value, what would Nancy Griffin want her to hear right now?
Your life is a treasure. The fact that you're able to listen to your podcast and the fact that that person is in the midst of, unbelievable trauma and despair, just flip it over. I tell people to live their lives like a split screen because we have those days when it's just god awful. You can't believe it could get any worse, and guess what? It just got worse. Okay, we'll deal with what you have to deal with, but flip it. Slide that, fade it to black. Get this out of the way and think about things that make you happy. Think of something that you're looking forward to. Focus on that. And how can I do more of that? And that's why I really encourage the giving back, getting involved, because as soon as you start to think about something beyond yourself, guess what? Life starts to get just a little bit better.
So we've come to the part of the show where you're going to get the spotlight screen and you get to plug away and let everybody know where they can find you, websites, everything.
Okay, well, the website is womenworthwellness.com. And anybody can send me an email anytime. Doesn't matter, 24/7. If I don't get it the night before, I'll get it the next morning. But my email is nancy@womenworthwellness.com. nancy@womenworthwellness.com. Send me an email. You'll go into our database. Then you'll be hearing about all the things that we're up to. We're on all the social media pretty well. LinkedIn is one of my favorite. But by all means, reach out. I'll be happy to connect with you. Anyone.
Awesome. Thank you so much for being a guest, Nancy. But don't leave just yet. Let me close out the show. We'll chat a little bit off air. But thank you so much for being such a wonderful guest. I appreciate your time. And thank you for dealing and just thank you for dealing with what we had to deal with.
No problem. I understand completely.
But thank you so much for being such a wonderful guest.
You're welcome. My pleasure. Thank you.
Pleasure was all mine. But all right, that was another great episode. I want to thank Nancy for sharing her wisdom, experience, and passion for helping women live healthier, wealthier, and more meaningful lives. I also want to thank her for being patient with me because it was trying today doing this episode. But if you enjoyed this episode, subscribe to Stuck in My Mind podcast, leave a review, share this conversation with someone who needs this message. To learn more about Nancy and women, worth, and wellness, visit womenwealthwellness.com. Remember, your self-worth and your net worth both matter. Stay wise. Peace out.